The afternoon news bulletin, Damascus. The presenter was reporting on Israeli airstrikes elsewhere in Syria when the story came to the capital. This is the Syrian Ministry of Defense. Umayyad Square, Damascus, a place packed with symbolism. The Damascene sword in the foreground. And in the background, this fledgling state's military HQ, partially destroyed. If this was Israel sending a message, it was caught from every angle. Warning drone strikes had been delivered earlier, so it's thought the building was all but empty. According to Syrian officials, at least one person was killed in the strikes and 18 injured. To understand why Israel did this in Damascus today, you have to look further south to what's been happening in the Syrian city of Sweda near the Israeli border over the last 3 days. The city is predominantly Druze, an offshoot of Shia Islam. At the weekend, sectarian tensions erupted there involving Druze militia and Sunni Bedouin clans. Over 300 people were killed. On Monday, Syria's President Ahmed al-Shara ordered his security forces, many of whom once belonged to Islamist militia, to go to Sweda and put an end to the violence. In the east of the city, Druze militia resisted, but members of the security forces and Bedouin gangs also killed Druze civilians. Today we spoke to a Druze man who filmed the aftermath of the killing of 18 members of his family. It's too gruesome to show, and he's asked to remain anonymous.
It was a massacre. All of them was civilians. When were they leaving, some woman shouts, screaming for her husband. Also, they killed her and shoot her directly. I'm sorry.
There's also a large Druze community in northern Israel on the Golan Heights. Today, large numbers of them gathered at the fence on the Israeli-controlled side, calling for protection for their fellow Druze across in Syria. Benjamin Netanyahu said the strikes in Damascus today were a warning to Syria's new government. Stay out of southern Syria and leave the Druze alone, or else.
Druze citizens of Israel, the situation in Sweden and the situation in southwestern Syria is very serious. The IDF is working, the Air Force is working, and other forces are also working. We are working to save our Druze brothers and to eliminate the gangs of the regime.
The Druze in Sweden, though, have a more complicated relationship with the new government in Damascus. Many don't want Israel's form of protection. The US Secretary of State said his officials had been up all night trying to de-escalate the situation in southern Syria.
Been engaged with them all morning long and all night long with both sides, and we think we're on our way towards a real de-escalation and then hopefully get back on track.
Another declared ceasefire in Sweden fell apart, though, today. Nation building in the new Syria is looking very shaky indeed.
Well, joining me now from Los Angeles is Rabbi Abraham Cooper, an American Jewish leader who recently returned from meeting Syria's president and has spoken of his hopes of improving relations between Israel and the new Syrian government. Good evening, Rabbi. Now, Israel portrays the Syrian president al-Sharaa as simply as a jihadi. Now, you've met him, and you came back, I thought, with hopes of an improved relationship between these two countries. Can you explain why?
Well, together with Reverend Johnny Moore, we had a 2-hour meeting at the palace, great details. He spoke about deconflicting. He mentioned a few times that they're no longer enemies, Israel and Syria. He talked about a future that step by step could improve. But it was also clear that whoever is going to lead Syria has to figure out a way how to deal with the various groups, including the Druze. And unfortunately, our request to actually go to Sweda was turned down because they said they didn't control the road going there. So situation is very much in flux. We did have a long meeting with about 20 major Christian leaders from around the country. And I can just say that all of the groups there, the Christians, the Druze, etc., everyone is holding their breath as to whether or not this country could be stitched back together again. I saw the footage that you just showed. Our meetings took place right about maybe 100 yards from where the bombing was. So the fact that there were warnings in advance, they weren't out to kill people, but to send a message to the Syrian national leadership that they should respect the concerns of the various minorities, and especially the Druze. As you know, they have a lot of family in northern Israel.
Yeah, but of course, the hope had been that the Druze, like the Kurds, would come in behind this new Syrian administration. And, you know, the president of Syria met Trump very, very recently, and there's clearly American, Turkish support for this administration. I mean, isn't Israel destabilizing this new government by bombing not just in the south, but right in the heart of the capital?
Well, I think, you know, I watched that clip of a man who survived where 18 members of his family had been murdered. I think there were echoes of October 7th for Israelis. And I did find that the Syrians who I met with, I don't think they understood why Israelis care so much about Druze. I mean, many of them are citizens. They serve in the military. They understand when you feel your families are in danger, maybe a simplistic view. But I think Israel's bombing is a signal that if Syria is going to be a partner under this leadership, that the president has to lead. He has said all the right things, but the question that we asked originally of the foreign minister and of him is, number one, can we trust you? And number two, can you deliver? And I think right now we're all holding our breaths about number two.
But does one country get to tell?
This president actually lead?
I mean, does one country get to tell a neighboring country where it can position its forces as it's trying to get, you know, a grip and authority over the whole territory? I mean, it's extraordinary.
I think it's a fair
it's like France
question.
telling Germany to get its army away.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, but understand also that there is 50 to 70 years of struggle between the Assads, Syria, and the state of Israel. Two major wars, terrorism, cross-border. Yeah, when you freeze
that was a
frame it
different
on
regime,
one day,
though, wasn't
you say what? It was a different regime, but really the fundamental question is, can they bring the various groups together? It's not for tonight for us to discuss the concerns of Christians, but each of the groups, including the Alawites and the Kurds, etc., they're all worried about their rights, whether they'll be protected, and whether or not this president is just a unicorn. And do the people behind him, the fighters who came with him, share his vision of a unified Syria? That's still very much a question mark. And I think in terms of Israel's reaction is they're not interested in changing the border. They're interested in a quiet border. And I think what I heard during the 2 hours with the president of Syria, his goals are exactly the same.
Right.
He doesn't need Israel as an enemy, but the Israelis have signaled that they're not going to allow the Druze minority there in Sweden to be roadkill on the road to Damascus.
Thank you very much for your time. Well, let's go to our foreign affairs correspondent, Secunda Kamani, who joins us now from Tel Aviv. Secunda.
Well, Chris, another week, another Israeli bombing campaign abroad. That's what it feels like, doesn't it? Of course, each of these conflicts is different. Israeli officials have their narrative as to why their actions, in their view, are justified. But what's clear to see is just how emboldened Israel feels in taking military action in the Middle East. The suggestion now is that things are headed towards de-escalation. The Israeli defense minister is on his way to Washington to meet his counterparts there. No such end or imminent end to the violence in Gaza looks in sight, though. Gaza remains by far the deadliest place in this region, and a warning that our report from there contains some very distressing images from the start. There are few things in Gaza as dangerous as simply trying to feed your family. Dead and injured Palestinians are rushed to hospital after a stampede at an aid distribution centre. Children are amongst the victims. At least 20 people killed. The Israeli and US-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation claimed armed Hamas members provoked unrest. But eyewitnesses said the site's guards sprayed them with pepper gas as they were trapped in a panicked mass of bodies between two sets of metal fences.
When we got there, we found that they were closing the gates, but people kept gathering, and when they pushed each other, those who couldn't bear it fell down and were crushed.
Palestinians described the aid sites as death traps. You can see why. This video from Rafah earlier this week shows bullets fired just next to a terrified crowd. 22-year-old Ibrahim has been documenting his experience of these real-life Hunger Games. Here, smoke grenades sent him and others fleeing. And this was him last month, amidst a massive, frantic crowd. It's his job to find food for his elderly parents and siblings. Only the strongest have any chance.
Before October 7th, I was happy and we always had food. Since then, to get food for my family, I have to risk my life. The pain is too much to think about. When I do get food, I'm happy knowing my family will eat. But it also breaks my heart. And I ask myself, how did things get this bad?
Since the GHF began operating 6 weeks ago, around 700 Palestinians are reported to have been killed by Israeli forces trying to access aid from its centres. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation runs 4 distribution sites, 3 in southern Gaza, 1 in the centre, all based in or adjacent to Israeli militarised zones. Investigative advocacy group Forensic Architecture has tracked 17 incidents of killings of Palestinians seeking aid from the sites. Geolocating videos, they found the majority occurred along access routes Palestinians had been instructed to use. Forensic Architecture also tracked the daily opening times of the sites. On average, they say, they were open for just 23 minutes. And on nearly a quarter of occasions, the sites announced they were closed before their scheduled opening time. Israel claims the GHF system prevents Hamas commandeering aid. But like these items, much of the food that's collected ends up being sold in markets at extortionate prices by traders making a profit or ordinary people with no other income. Practically Gaza's entire population faces acute hunger, and the UN is now only able to bring in limited supplies. Taura's husband was killed in an Israeli strike. She's left with 8 children to care for.
The truth is that I can't even afford food, nappies or milk for them. But I don't even know where to go or who might lend me some money. I can feel my tears building up.
With no other choice, Taura has attempted to get aid from the GHF, arming herself with a knife for protection from thieves.
Whoever gets anything gets robbed. The people are stabbing each other and the Israeli soldiers are shooting at them. So we get nothing. There are men in front of us. I can't run like a man. I just can't. Every day is a repeat. On the return journey, gunfire again above our heads. We are staring at death. Every bite is soaked in blood.
Late at night, at the GHF site in central Gaza, Ibrahim is hoping he'll be able to collect food. But it's not open, and bullets fly around him. I can't go any further, he says, before heading home empty-handed. With a ceasefire elusive, humiliation and fear stalk every aspect of life. Well, those ceasefire negotiations haven't yet broken down, but still no major progress to report from them. Today, Israel's army chief said that if a deal is not reached imminently, their approach in Gaza is going to be even more aggressive. The military today also announced that it had created a new military corridor in Gaza, splitting eastern and western Khan Yunis off from each other. That's no doubt a pressure tactic on Hamas, but it's also going to raise yet further concern about Israel's still very unclear long-term ambitions in Gaza.